Is nature good for your health? Well, of course, I think we all know that and we all accept that as fact. It's a vague notion. It's just something out there, a wishy-washy idea. It has been proven that being in nature releases pheromones, endorphins that react with your brain and give you a feeling of well-being. So it's medically and scientifically proven nature is good for you. But that's just cold hard facts. What does it mean to us? What do we feel? What is it about nature that makes it so magical? Being in nature is the perfect opportunity to actually examine nature. Why do we feel better in nature? Think better in nature? Breathe better in nature? Just function, on the whole, better in nature. And we do, every single one of us. Don't try to deny it. We do. It seems almost redundant to ask, but it is only my opinion. You may think differently. And that is what makes the world go round. I don't think it's particularly complicated. We're out in nature, the chemicals flow through our body, they interact with our brain, we get a feeling of well-being. It's all quite simple. Even I can understand that. But when we're in nature, we're also away from many of the things that trigger stress. We're away from the stresses of work, the stresses of home life, the stresses of town life, the stresses of city life, the stresses of technology, the noise, the babble, the clitter-clatter, the endless thrumming of the world going about its business. We're in an environment that not only takes us back to thoughts of our childhood, when life was simpler, just for us, just for the child. Life in our world as a child was simpler. But perhaps it takes us back a little bit further than that. Perhaps it actually takes us back a lot further than that. Perhaps it takes us back into mists of time. I'm not talking a generation or two. I'm talking a millennia or two and more. Perhaps we are linked in a primordial sense to nature. I believe we are. And I quite like that idea, so I'm going to run with that idea. Hear me out. I think many of us, or most of us, do believe and accept that many animals exhibit behaviour that is baked in from the prehistoric, almost, forebears. The dog, the wolf, the wild wolf of old. And it's baked in, and they've got a name for it. Is it something like learned behaviour? I think it's learned behaviour. And many animals exhibit learned behaviour. And we're just an animal. I mean, sometimes I think we're arrogant enough to think we are more than animals, but that's all we are. So if they have learned behaviour, why can't we have learned behaviour? Why can't we have learned senses and feelings? I think it's relevant. I think I'm right. I'm right in my own head. And it makes sense to me, and I quite like that idea actually. It kind of links you back. I recorded a video at a place, my last video, at a place called Pikestones, a Neolithic burial mound on the moors above where I live. Molly's walking off into the distance down a path that we know. Molly, we're not going, she's just walking. I'm going to have to follow her. So we sat at Pikestones, and whether you kind of like it or not, whether you feel it or not, I did. I felt a connection. There was a connection. And that burial mound was made about 5,000 years ago, roughly. But I still felt a connection. A subliminal one. It wasn't something I actually sat down and thought about. You just feel it. That's like a learned history, isn't it? I think that's quite cool. I mean, there are isolated tribes all over the world that exhibit behaviour that hasn't changed for thousands of years. And it hasn't changed, it's been passed down. It's a learned behaviour. Now that's kind of a tangible learned behaviour because it's been passed down. But I also think that some things can be passed down in the memory, even though those acts, those processes, that culture has long gone. I believe that. A learned behaviour from a time long before there was technology, long before there was industry and cars and construction on a huge scale, when the only thing was the sound of the wind in the trees and the wind in the grass and the birds above us, the sheep in the field, early domesticated animals, wild animals, the sound of streams, the sound of rivers, the sound of the weather, wind, rain, hail, thunder. We experience every single one of those now, and each one of those, the sound of thunder hasn't changed at all. The sound of the wind hasn't changed. The sound of the wind in the trees hasn't changed. The sound of running water hasn't changed. What we are listening to is exactly the same thing that our long dead forebears heard as they were hunting for food across the landscape, as they were just learning about farming. Before the Bronze Age, the end of the Stone Age, when the Neolithic burial mounds were constructed, they listened to exactly the same thing as us. We are in exactly the same nature. And if you can get away from the towns and the cities, okay, the landscape has changed, because most of the landscape now is manufactured and cultivated and landscaped. There are very few truly wild areas left. In the UK at least. Some, but not many. But if you can get away from the conurbations and the businesses and the factories and the traffic, you are listening to exactly what our forebears listened to. And I think that's a pretty cool feeling. And that actually relaxes me. That puts me in a good frame of mind. That helps me just clear my mind. And if I do that early in the morning, early morning walks in the countryside sets you up for a constructive day. Constructive in whatever you're doing or whatever you're not doing. We are but animals. We like to think we're not, but I'm afraid we are. I don't know whether you can hear it. There's a cuckoo over to my left. How long have cuckoos been around in this country? Who first heard them? It would have been exactly the same sound I'm listening to now. And it would probably have filled our forebears with wonder and appreciation for nature. Can you hear it? Cuckoo. The first cuckoo of the year. So much of nature is blocked out by the rattle and hum, the rattle and thrum of modern day life. But it's out there for you to find, and it's not far away. And there's a profound contrast between the noise and the peace. When we come out, I don't want to go home, and Molly doesn't, and we do stay out, but eventually we have to. But as I stand here now, looking at this world around me, Molly enjoying herself in the grass. Whoa, there's a good shake. And the trees. And they're in blossom. And all I can hear is nature. I can hear a stream over to my left, running in a shallow valley. There's a ha-ha here, We've mentioned that before in a video. And trees, big mature trees. And there's a breeze, a light breeze going through the leaves. It's like music. So it's no wonder we like just sitting out in the countryside, staring into the middle distance and communing with our ancestors. We're doing all that and we didn't even know we were doing it. So we are going to continue communing with our forebears until it's time to go home and have a cup of tea and a slice of toast. But I think this is one of the reasons we feel so attached to the countryside. It's like a familiar, safe feeling. And I think one of the reasons is learned behaviour. It's up there. It's passed down mentally from generation to generation through the mists of time. And it keeps us happy. So, have a great day. We will see you all on the flip. Peace and love. On a light note to finish, I had an hospital appointment yesterday where after 5 years I was declared cancer free. So that was a big day for me. Go me! See you next time.